I always say, make sure you guys are sharing this podcast, all right? Now, listen, we're going to start off hot. First of all, we're going to speak about this 42 Dugg and Offset. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with 42 Dugg, you know what I mean? Dog food, 42 Dugg, little short guy out of Detroit. And he's one of my favorite rappers out of Detroit. To me, he's the #1 rapper out of Detroit, besides the infamous Eminem, right? Mr. 42 Dugg. Now, 42 Dugg recently has been seen online, all right? And he has some discrepancies with some things with a story that's being told by Wack 100. Now, if you guys know Wack 100, that's the West Coast, all right? The blood, the Paru out of West Coast. You already know this guy is mischievous, all right? He's constantly stirring up something on the internet, which gives us something to talk about. So shout out to Wack 100. But nonetheless, 42 Dugg now, he has a discrepancy. Like I told you guys, 42 Dugg is very short, all right? He's very, very short. But you know how they say about King Selassie, right? Selassie was short too. They say he's small as a mouse, right? He creeps like a mouse, but he has the jaws of a lion. Yeah, short people come with a lot. I'm gonna tell you some of the Napoleon complex. Short people when they boot up for real. All right, and it's the same thing in this situation. So now, okay, let's rewind a little bit. 42 Dugg had a dice game with Offset. You already know Migos, 1/3 member of the Migos, Offset. 42 Dugg and Offset had a dice game. Now, according to Wack 100, during this dice game, you guys know how it is when we throw in dice and shit, right? You take somebody's money, but the honorable thing to do is when you take your opponent's money, when you take everybody's money in the dice game, you give people an opportunity to win their money back. That's what somebody with honor does, right? It's being fair when you're talking about throwing dice, all right? Nonetheless, in this situation, how Wack 100 tells it, 42 Dugg was winning Offset's money, all right? This is all according to Wack 100. He's winning the money. 42 Dugg is up. 42 Dugg tried leaving, I guess. He didn't want to give these guys a chance to get their money back. So this obviously resulted into an altercation, right? So according to Wack 100, 42 Dugg tried to walk off with the bread. He tried to move on with the bread. Obviously, Offset was not feeling that. Offset wanted to win that money back. You already know how Offset preferably want to spend that money on Cardi B, right? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things Offset could have spent that money on. How you going to come back home to the wife and somebody you lost all this money, even though the man is already rich? But nonetheless, the story goes by Wack 100 that Offset end up stealing on 42 Dugg. Now, remember, you guys, you know Offset. Offset is obviously taller than 42 Dugg. 42 Dugg is about, I wouldn't give him no more than 5'1". This guy is real short, right? And the thing is about 42 Dugg, to give you just to give you an idea of 42 Dugg, he even speaks with a squeaky voice. 42 Dugg has a voice like Little Boots, similar to Little Bootsy when he's rhyming, though. Bootsy don't really sound like that in person, but he sounds like that when he's rhyming. Well, 42 Dugg sounds like that in person. 42 Dugg, they make a joke that 42 Dugg voice sounds like they shrunk him. You ever seen Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? That's how his voice is like they shrunk his voice. All right, so nonetheless, 42 Dugg is saying that's not how the story went. But let me just give the rundown of Offset, how Wack 100 gave the story. Wack 100 says that Offset went off in 42 Dugg's pocket after he stole on him, right? He's saying that he went to tap in his pockets. You know that's the ultimate violation, right? Shots fired. Hold up. Shots fired. In a dice game, imagine you getting your pockets checked, right? Let alone it's Mr. Offset checking your pockets, all right? The celebrity going off in your pockets. This is according to Wack 100. So now, 42 Dugg has chimed in. 42 Dugg said there's no way on God's green earth this ever took place. 42 Dugg said, you telling me somebody went in my pockets and nobody died? Not even attempted murder? All right? So this is how 42 Dugg is feeling. He's trying to say that Wack 100 is lying about this situation, all right? Now, keep in mind, Wack 100 is in the middle of this situation. As always, he's in the middle of a lot of situations. Now, according to Wack 100, this actually took place. He vows that it took place. Wack 100 even went as far as to say that he protected 42 Dugg in the process, right? 42 Dugg is saying that this never happened. 42 Dugg saying he had over 100 bands on him. 42 Dugg is saying somebody would have got murdered, at least an attempted murder, if somebody made an attempt to pocket check him, all right? To involuntarily take money off of him, which took place. Now, this is all allegations. This is allegations according to Wack 100. Now, Wack 100 says that he received a text message. He said he got a text message from Mr. Offset. And Offset's trying to say, why is this kid playing like that? So according to Wack 100, Offset is confirming that it actually took place, right? Now, I don't know how you guys would side on this situation. I don't know how people would side on the situation. Like I said, 42 Dugg is no more than 5'1", 5 foot. He might be beneath 5 foot. I don't know if you guys are familiar with 42 Dugg out of Detroit. All right, but the kid is very, very, very short. So it gives some kind of validity to the story. You think that, yeah, it's possible that that Offset went off in his pocket. You would think that it's possible according to the size of 42 Dugg. But you can't make an assumption out here, right? You make an assumption, you make an ass out of yourself. Assuming, you make a fool and make an ass out of yourself by assuming. That's why sometimes it's not good to assume. Well, according to 42 Dugg, this never, ever took place, right? Well, nonetheless, obviously, Offset and Wack 100 is doubling down that Offset went in 42 Dugg pockets, right? Now, like I said, according to Wack 100, Wack 100 protected 42 Dugg, in which he instructed Offset to go off in the corner, right? He separated the two individuals, in which Wack 100 says that, yeah, they got, luckily enough that they got respect for him. Now he's saying that he protected 42 Dugg. 42 Dugg is saying that this didn't happen. But on 42 Dugg's part, on his part, I don't understand whether it didn't happen as in he didn't speak about getting stolen. 42 Dugg never spoke about Offset swinging on him. He just saying that they never took no money, that nobody patted his pockets, nobody went in his pockets. So right now we stuck between 42 Dugg's story and Offset's story, which Offset never told the story. This story is coming from Wack 100, all right? And you guys know how Wack 100 tells the story. It's very, very colorful. Wack 100 stories are very, very colorful, and they're usually inconsistent with the other party that was involved. Wack 100 story never lines up with the opponent, with the person that's on with the victim. The stories never line up. And that's typical. There's a consistency in Wack 100 stories. The inconsistencies is the consistencies in Wack 100 story. So according to 42 Dugg, this never took place, man. Nonetheless, shout out to 42 Dugg. Shout out to Offset, nonetheless. But let's call a spade a spade. Listen, man. I'm saying this being careful while saying this. Let's keep in mind, all right? Remember how Takeoff got taken off this earth. Rest in peace to Takeoff. You guys remember, Takeoff lost his life as a result of a dice game, all right? A betting. Quavo got into an argument, supposedly, and subsequently Offset was murdered in the process of the aftermath of the argument. This is after the dice game. I'm seeing a pattern here. This has something to do with, you see Offset and the correlation with Offset and Takeoff and with the gambling. It's all in correlation, right? You would think that they would sustain from having these dice games. These dice games are going bad. It's going very bad. All right. Nonetheless, Offset continues to gamble. Now, I would think at this point, these gentlemen would refrain from gambling at this point. Imagine this, right? Before we even go into that, a lot of people are saying that there's something that stemmed from this beef with 42 Dugg and Offset. This thing escalated, all right? If you guys don't know, 42 Dugg is Lil Baby's artist, all right? And they're saying that Lil Baby and Offset got into their altercation, got into their beef subsequently because of this particular day, this incident that took place, the gambling between Offset and 42 Dugg, right? Which gives some validity to it. Somebody was disrespected there, and Lil Baby felt he was compelled, it was on his behalf to stand up for 42 Dugg, which is his artist, right? Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with what's been going on, but Offset and Lil Baby had a beef at one point. They had issues at one point. And people are saying that, well, Wack 100 particularly is saying that this problem stemmed from that dice game. So once again, a dice game resulted into an altercation, but fortunately for these gentlemen, this time nobody was murdered in the process, right? Rest in peace to Offset. I mean, to Takeoff. Excuse me. Rest in peace to Takeoff. All right? Now I'm hearing stories about this. I'm talking about people getting stripped naked. According to 42 Dugg, 42 Dugg has chimed in. Like I told you, 42 Dugg has responded to all these allegations about Wack 100. 42 Dugg is trying to say that they had to pay them. Offset and whoever's Offset's entourage, Offset's team, had to pay 42 Dugg's team to get off of him, to get off his neck. This is according to 42 Dugg. According to 42 Dugg, they beat Offset out of his pants, right? Damn near stripped the man. This is all allegations. I don't know how true this is. I'm a fan of Offset. I'm a fan of 42 Dugg. I don't know how true this is, right? Nor do like I said, I don't have a horse in this race. We're not here to condemn nobody. This is not about condemning nobody. This is not about bringing to trying to taint somebody's career or taint somebody's image, right? Because everybody has an image to uphold at this point. They're both celebrities, and with the streets involved, the street credibility involved with that, entangled in that. All right, but nonetheless, they're saying that beef between Offset and Little Baby, it came from, it spawned from that dice game. At this point, gentlemen, I think it's time. I think it's safe to say you guys got to put down the dice. I think it's safe to say that Offset, the Migos, you guys don't have no more room for things to transpire from a dice game. You lost one group member behind a dice game. I don't think that the Migos have any more get out of jail for free cards. It's not even about going to jail. But imagine another incident taking place, which it actually did take place behind some dice, behind the roll of the dice. You know what I mean? I understand what a dice is. When I was a kid, I used to roll dice. I used to be with the older gangsters in the park. And you know what I mean? And I used to roll dice with the older gangsters. But see, the difference is when you were a kid, the older gangsters, they let you leave with the little money that you gain. That was the awesome thing about it. When I was a kid, I used to get into a good CeeLo game. I don't play craps. I don't play 2 dice. It's 3 dice, CeeLo. We playing CeeLo. So I used to get around the older gangsters, the elders, the older men around in my neighborhood, in my community, right? And with that being said, I used to put my couple dollars in, and they would allow me to leave the dice game with my money because I was a kid. Shout out to Pete, all right? Shout out to PS. Shout out to Pete, all right? Pete was one of them. Rest in peace to Pete. He was one of them that would let me leave with the dice. I mean, not leave with the money from the dice game. But nonetheless, 42 Dugg, though you might be short like a kid, you're not a kid. You're a grown man. Obviously, you just came from prison, right? You was just incarcerated. That's evident that you're a grown man, all right? I don't think the Migos have no more room for having altercations behind a dice game or losing somebody behind a dice game. It would be ridiculous at this point if history would repeat itself. If history ever repeats itself one more time, I don't think you guys have any more opportunities. At this point, you guys would be the butt of everybody's jokes, and it wouldn't be funny, all right? So shout out to all the Migos, the remaining Migos members. And this goes out to 42 Dugg too. You guys, let's be careful with the dice games, all right? Especially in you guys' situation. Now, I'm not saying to do away with the dice altogether, right? To each his own. I might still enter into a dice game, right? But I'm just saying, I don't think there's no more room for messing up after the loss of Takeoff, all right? The premature death of Takeoff. I don't think you guys have any more rooms for messing up any longer, all right? But nonetheless, shout out to the Migos. Shout out to 42 Dugg. And shout out to Offset. Nonetheless. Now, you guys, moving right along. What's Paul Business saying? That's the same bullshit Offset was on. Wait, let me see. Let me read this comment section. That's the same bullshit Offset was on the night Takeoff got hit. Shaking my head, Offset got an addiction. Who knows, man? I don't know if I would call it addiction, but I understand what you're saying, brother. Definitely at this point, it's something consistent here, right? Dice games gone bad. You guys be careful out there with these dice games, all right? It happens to the worst. Before, the worst thing that can happen in a dice game is you getting robbed. Now cats is losing their lives behind a dice game, all right? So be careful out there. Now, you guys, moving right along. Listen, I want to give a rest in peace. We're going to continue this. I want to give a rest in peace to Yo Gotti's brother, Dugg.